New Sound Trucking School presents the pre-trip inspection for the Washington State CDL skills test. In-cab with brake check, engine compartment with steer axle, side and back of truck with drive axle, connections and trailer with trailer axle.
In-cab inspection. Make it easy. 1, 2, 3, 4 or CA, CB check. 1. Compressor check.
I will now do an in-cab inspection. I will do a safety start. Parking brakes are set, clutch is in, and transmission is in neutral, and I will start the engine. I will press brakes several times to lose air below 90 psi and say, the air governor should cut out between 120 and 140 psi. Fast idle the truck and listen for the air governor. After you hear, say, my air governor cut out at 130 psi. Truck passed the test.
2. Air check.
For the air check, I will verbalize my actions. I'm pushing the clutch in, putting my foot on the brake, placing the truck in gear, and turning key off. When the engine stops, I'm now releasing the tractor and trailer brakes and turning ignition on. Now release the tractor and trailer parking brakes, clutch and foot off the brake for the next 3 very important steps.
Air leak test.
For the air leak test, tell the examiner, I will check for air leaks. The truck cannot lose more than 4 psi in a minute for a combination vehicle. Press and hold the brake pedal. Wait for the needle to stop moving, then time 1 minute. Watch the air gauge and keep your foot on the brake. Point to the gauge and say, after 1 minute, the air pressure did not drop more than 4 psi. Combination vehicle passed the test.
Low air warning test.
For the low air warning test, I will say, I will pump my service brake. The low air warning light or buzzer should come on at or above 60 psi. Watch the air gauge and pump the brakes. Point to the air gauge and say, a low air warning light or buzzer should come on at 60 psi. It's working properly.
Protection valve test.
For the protection valve test, I will say, I will pump my service brake again. The protection valves should pop out approximately at 40 psi. Watch the air gauge and pump the brakes. Point to the air gauge and say, my brakes popped out at 40 psi. They are working properly.
3. Cab check.
I will do a safety start. Parking brakes are set, clutch is in, transmission is in neutral, and I'm starting the engine. The ABS lights came on and off. The seatbelt is securely mounted, working properly. Belt has no cuts, frays, adjusted properly. My fire extinguisher is fully charged, securely mounted, and up to date. I have 3 reflective triangles. I have spare fuses. The mirrors, windows, and windshield are clean, securely mounted, not damaged, not cracked, no stickers or things that block my vision. The mirrors are adjusted properly. The windshield wipers and washer are securely mounted, not damaged, working properly. Windshield washer is working properly. The heater and defroster are operational. My city horn is working properly. My air horn is working. I will now demonstrate my dashboard light indicators. My high beam, my right and left turn signals, and four-way flashers are working. The oil pressure gauge is operational, oil pressure is normal, and warning light is off. The temperature gauge is operational, coolant temperature is normal, and warning light is off. The voltmeter is operational, batteries are charging. The air gauge is working properly. The air governor should cut out between 120 and 140 psi. My air governor cut out at 130 psi.
4. Brakes check. Tractor parking brakes check.
To check the tractor parking brake, I will release the trailer parking brake and leave the tractor parking brake on. Now I will try to move the truck forward. The truck didn't move, so the tractor parking brakes are working.
Trailer parking brakes check.
For the trailer parking brake check, I will say, to check the trailer parking brakes, I release the tractor parking brake and pull the red valve out and leave the trailer parking brake on. Now I will try to move the truck forward. The truck didn't move, so the trailer parking brakes are working.
Service brake check.
For the service brake check, I will say, to check my service brake, I release both my tractor and trailer parking brakes. Now I will try to move forward 5 to 10 feet. My service brakes are working. The truck did not turn left or right. Now I will put the transmission in neutral and turn off the engine.
Engine compartment inspection. Make it easy. 3 L's, 3 fluids, 3 components, belt and hoses. Leaks, leans, lights. 3 L's.
Stand in front of the truck. Ensure that there are no leaks underneath the engine compartment. Truck isn't leaning to one side, which could indicate a suspension problem or low tire pressure. Lastly, verify that all lights, headlights, reflectors on the front of the truck are clean, securely mounted, not damaged, not cracked, not missing, and proper color. Headlights are clear. Clearance lights and turn signal lights are amber.
3 fluids. Coolant.
Indicate coolant reservoir and say coolant is above the refill mark and can be checked at the side glass or by opening the radiator cap when the engine is cold.
Oil.
Indicate oil dipstick and say, I'll check the oil level on the oil dipstick to be sure it's above the refill mark.
Power steering fluid.
Indicate power steering reservoir and say, power steering fluid level is above the refill mark and I can check with the dipstick. The reservoir is not leaking and power steering hoses and fittings are securely mounted, not leaking and not damaged.
3 components. Alternator.
This is the alternator. It's belt driven, securely mounted, not damaged, working properly. Alternator wires are secure and not damaged.
Water pump.
This is the water pump. It's gear driven, securely mounted, not damaged, not leaking, and working properly.
Air compressor.
This is the air compressor. It's gear driven, securely mounted, not damaged, not leaking, and working properly.
Belts and hoses.
The engine hoses and fittings are securely mounted, not damaged, not worn, not cut, not leaking. The engine belts are snug, not frayed, not cracked, not worn, and they don't move more than half an inch to 3/4 of an inch when I press on the middle of the belt.
Steer axle inspection. Make it easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Steering, suspension, brakes, wheel. Steering. Power steering pump.
This is the power steering pump. It's belt driven, securely mounted, not damaged, not leaking, and working properly.
Power steering box.
This is the power steering box. It's securely mounted, not damaged, not leaking, and there are no missing nuts or bolts.
Steering linkage.
The links, arms, and rods from the steering box are not worn, not cracked. The joints and sockets are securely mounted, not worn, and not loose. There are no missing nuts, bolts, or cutter pins.
Suspension. Leaf spring mounts and brackets.
Leaf spring mounts and brackets are securely mounted with no missing nuts, bolts, or bushings.
Leaf springs and hangers.
Leaf spring and hanger are not missing, not damaged, not cracked, not bent, and not shifted.
U-bolts.
The U-bolts are not broken, not missing, and there are no loose or missing nuts.
Airbags.
The airbags are securely mounted, not damaged, not leaking, no holes.
Shock absorbers.
The shock absorbers are securely mounted and not leaking.
Brakes. Brake hoses and fittings.
Brake hoses and fittings supply air to the brake chamber, and they are securely mounted, not damaged, not leaking, not cracked, not worn, not frayed.
Brake chamber.
Brake chamber are securely mounted, not cracked, not leaking, and not dented. There are no leaks, loose, or missing clamps.
Slack adjuster and pushrod.
Slack adjuster and pushrod are securely mounted, not broken, with no bent, loose, or missing parts. With brakes released, the pushrod has no more than 1 inch of play when pulled by hand.
Brake drum.
The brake drum has no cracks, dents, holes, no loose or missing bolts, and no oil or grease.
Brake pads.
The brake pads are securely mounted and not dangerously thin, with no less than 1/4 of an inch and no oil or grease.
Wheel. Tire.
The thread is evenly worn. Thread depth is at least 4/32 of an inch, is virgin rubber with no recaps. The sidewall and thread has no cuts, no bulges, no damage. I'll check inflation with an air gauge.
Rim.
The rims are securely mounted, not damaged, not broken, and there are no welds.
Valve stem and cap.
The valve stem and caps are not damaged, not broken, not missing, and not leaking.
Lug nuts.
The lug nuts are not missing, not loose, and there are no rust trails, distortions, or cracks starting from the bolt holes.
Hub seal.
The hub seal is securely mounted, not leaking. Hub oil level can be checked here at the seal. There are no leaks under the engine or transmission.
Side and back of the truck inspection. Make it easy. Inspect from top to bottom, front to rear. Side and back of the truck. Mirror.
The mirror brackets are securely mounted and not damaged.
Door.
Open the driver's door and say, the door hinges are securely mounted, not damaged, opens and closes properly. Rubber seal is intact and not damaged. Window is clean and not damaged.
Marker lights. Turn signal.
Marker light or turn signal is securely mounted, not damaged, not missing, clean, and proper color of amber.
Catwalk and steps.
The catwalk and steps are solid, securely mounted to the frame, clear of objects, and no missing nuts and bolts.
Fuel tank.
The fuel tank is securely mounted, not leaking, cap is tight, and not leaking.
Frame and cross members.
The frame and cross members are securely mounted, not damaged, not missing, not broken, not cracked, not bent, and no broken welds.
Drive shaft.
The drive shaft is securely mounted, not damaged, not bent, not cracked. The U-joints are securely mounted, not damaged, free of foreign objects.
Tractor tail lights and reflectors.
Tractor taillights and reflectors are securely mounted, not damaged, not missing, not broken, not cracked, clean and proper color of red.
Mud flap.
The mud flap is securely mounted, not damaged, not missing, with the DOT reflector tape, clean and securely attached.
Drive axle inspection. Make it easy. 5 difference between steer and drive axle. Drive axle.
For the drive axle, I will point to each part and say, I will check the leaf spring mounts and brackets, leaf springs and hangers, U-bolts, shock absorbers and bushings, brake hoses and fittings, brake chambers and clamp slack adjusters and push rods, brake drums and brake pads. The tires, rims, valve stems, caps and lug nuts on the drive axle are the same as I checked on the steer axle, except
1. Axle seal.
the axle seal. The hub, oil, and grease seal is not leaking.
2. Tire thread.
The thread depth on the drive axle is at least 2/32 of an inch.
3. Space between tires.
The bud spacers are even, not damaged, and no objects in between.
4. Airbags.
The airbags are securely mounted, not damaged, not leaking, with no holes.
5. Torque arms and bushings.
Torque arm and bushings are securely mounted and not damaged.
Connections and trailer inspection. Make it easy. Connections start at rear of cab and with Kingpin. Connections. Fifth wheel assembly. Apron.
The fifth wheel assembly apron is not broken, not cracked, not bent, no gap between apron and skid plate.
Skid plate.
The skid plate is securely mounted, not damaged, properly greased, and the bolts, nuts, and brackets and clamps are not missing, not loose.
Pivot pin.
The pivot pin is securely mounted, cotter pin is in place.
Platform base.
The platform base is securely mounted to the frame, not broken, not cracked, not damaged.
Locking pins.
Locking pins are fully engaged, not loose or missing, and there are no air leaks if it's air powered. There is enough space between the fifth wheel and the landing gear.
Release handle.
The release handle is securely mounted and in locked position.
Kingpin and locking jaws.
The kingpin and locking jaws are securely mounted, not damaged, not broken. The locking jaws are secured around the shank of the kingpin and both are properly greased.
Air and electrical lines.
The air and electrical lines are securely mounted and locked at both ends. They are not rubbing or dragging on other parts. The glad hands are locked, not damaged, not leaking. Air hoses, electrical lines, and fittings are not cut, not cracked, not worn, pinched, spliced, or taped.
Trailer inspection. Front wall of the trailer.
The front wall of the trailer has no cracks, holes, or bulges. It's strong to hold the load and it has no missing rivets. The clearance lights are securely mounted, not missing, not damaged, clean, and proper color of amber.
Side of the trailer.
The side of the trailer is not damaged, not broken, not cracked, no holes or missing rivets. The DOT reflector tape is securely mounted, clean, and proper color.
ABS light.
The ABS lights are not damaged, not missing, clean, proper color of amber, goes on and off when checked.
Floor.
The floor has no holes.
Frame and cross members.
The frame and cross members are securely mounted, not damaged, not broken, not missing, and not cracked, not bent, and no broken welds.
Landing gear.
The landing gear is securely mounted and fully raised. The frame and pads are securely mounted, not damaged. The handle is secure and operational.
Trailer axle inspection.
On the trailer axle, I will point to each part and say, I will check the leaf spring mounts and brackets, leaf springs and hangers, U-bolts, shock absorbers and bushings, torque arm and bushings, brake hoses and fittings, brake chambers and clamps, slack adjusters and push rods, brake drums and brake pads, the tires, rims, valve stems and caps, lug nuts and bud spacers on the trailer axle are the same as I checked on the drive axle, except for the hub oil seal, the same as on the steer axle.
Back of the trailer.
The back of the trailer, doors and hinges are securely mounted, not damaged, open, close, and latch properly. The DOT reflector tape is securely mounted, clean, and proper color.
Light.
My clearance lights turn signal, and brake light are securely mounted, not broken, not cracked, not damaged, clean and proper color of red.
Mud flaps.
The mud flaps are securely mounted, not damaged, not missing. On the right side of the truck, I would inspect the same as on the left, except for the exhaust system.
Exhaust.
The exhaust is securely mounted, parts connected tightly with no loose clamps, cracks, holes, or big dents. There is no rust or carbon soot, which could be evidence of a leak.